So, you want to know how to effectively defeat more Rise of Nations players without losing for the millionth time? Then you've clicked on the right video. Because what you need is the knowledge of how to use the most deadly tactics known in Rise of Nations and watch people cry over your despicable actions. Be warned, as some of these tactics may be too disturbing. I'll show you many ways for you to maliciously decimate any player that you go against, with little to no morality. If this is too much for you, then feel free go back to watching Cocomelon. Otherwise, I'll show you exactly how to ruthlessly dominate your opponents. But before doing any of that, I'll have to warn you that most of these require a lot of money, resources, and some common sense. Not having any of these will lead to nothing but total self-destruction. You can easily remedy this by creating and selling electronics, consumer goods, and aircraft parts. You can also invade countries that are rich in resources. Now that you have that covered, I will now show you the first tactic that you can use, which is how this works. Find a country in which your soul deeply desires to watch burn to bits with profound levels of ruthlessness. Once you have a target, check to see if they are allied with either a weak country or any AI nation. This is very important. We're doing this because we want to be at war with your target, while giving them as little time to prepare as possible. So instead of directly attacking the main country, you can indirectly assault them by initiating a war on their ally, which will then force your target to join their war. 99% of the time, the player you attack will be so surprised and unprepared that you will have at least 15 seconds to unleash as much of your passion of watching people getting demolished in a video game as you want. The best part about this tactic is that it can also work on any of your allies. So not only will you decimate their country, you will also provide them with enough trauma to give them trust issues. However, as diabolical as this tactic is, there are a few problems with it that need to be addressed. The first problem is that the ally of the country you're trying to invade may have a lot of other allies. A simple way to fix this is by requesting to ally them, only to break ties immediately. This will cause a truce and stop them from joining your war. Sometimes they will not accept this. If this is the case, make a backup army and just declare war. Most times, the unwanted ally will send white peace. If they refuse to white peace, you may also have to invade them. However, the most serious problem of this tactic is if the country you seek to destroy is completely prepared for this and simply chooses not to ally anyone. I have a solution to this, which we will get to later. Once you've pounced on your prey and taken over a few cities, your opponent may finally realize what is going on and proceed to create as much units as humanly possible in hopes of slowing down your advance. And many times, this can work to an extent. If you want to continue the advance and let them disrespect your men like this, then that's completely normal. But we're not trying to be normal here, we're trying to be as menacing and brutal as possible. If you want to deplete your opponent's chances of spawning units out of thin air, then this next tactic will show you exactly that. Yes, that's right. Aircraft does indeed exist in Rise of Nations. All you need to do is create an aircraft factory and get the resources required. Now if you want to perform an effective air raid, you have to do this right. If you don't have at least 5 airports, invade weak AI countries for free airports and make sure you have strategic bombing doctrine. Since creating multitudes of bombers can be slow and expensive, strategic bombing will not only speed this process up, but it will also increase the driver's experience, which will result in less plane crashes. Once you have 5 airports, use them to create at least 15 bombers and 10 fighters. You can also create attackers if you want to deal more damage to units. If you know that your enemy has an air force, you will have to adjust by training your flying vehicles and creating protected anti-aircrafts in strategic locations. This will stun their ability to send airplanes to bombard key cities like your capital or factories. Now that you are at war with your target country, use your fighters to kill all of their air units. Next, send all your bombers to areas like square cities, factories, and maybe even their capital. These bombers will release a trail of deadly explosives that can destroy fortifications, factories, civilian homes, stability, and your opponent's pride. This will also create unrest, which can temporarily stop your victim from creating units in affected cities. Now after this, you can split your bombers and set them to auto-capture. This will add more damage to the already demolished state of your enemy's country. Most of the time, your enemy would be devastated and die on the spot. But the more resilient players would try to create anti-aircrafts. You can simply destroy them by sending some units to kill them. But other players will create a navy. Naval units like destroyers and battleships can decimate an entire air force, which means you will need naval domination as well. I'll make a detailed guide in the future, but for now, All you need to do is to create and train destroyers, battleships, and submarines, set equalize movement to true, and hope for the best. This next one is one of the most simple yet effective tactic you could do. By clicking on a familiar button, you unlock the ability to view more videos like this, all while helping this channel reach the goal of 3,000 subscribers and showing your superiority by being the few that actually do this. All this, just in one click. And if you're feeling deceitful, you can use a dangerous tactic known as deception. Due to its catastrophic capabilities, this tactic will be split into 3 different parts. The first part requires the knowledge of using the Roblox chat feature. By using your social skills, you will be tricking people into thinking that you're in a bad financial situation, have little to no stability, or are in need of new recruits. When you complain about this in chat, one of 3 things can happen. In some cases, no one will care and people will just move on with their lives. But in others times, some generous people may aid you with money, manpower, or free trades. Basically free profit. And if you have a well-established enemy in the server, they may see your message and decide that you're an easy target, only for you to prove them wrong and completely demolish them in a war. But sometimes, lying about your current financial situation isn't enough for you, then what you need is a way of deceiving people through trades. How it works is very simple. Create aircraft parts, or gain any other uncommon resource and trade it to every player. But instead of just trading one unit for 1 times value, you can change the units and price modifier to something that looks visually similar. For example, you can sell 5 units for 5 times value or 2 units for 20 times value. Sell this to every player, and chances are, someone will use their last brain cell to accept. However, some individuals may decide to completely expose you in chat. Upon seeing this may cause some players to have one of many emotions, including confusion, disgust, and anger. And angry people are likely to plot against you. You can easily negate this by having a huge army that everyone in the server can see, and will likely deter people from declaring war on you. But if you find fun in decimating players that dare to challenge you, then there is another approach. Instead of having millions of troops showing force along your borders, you can deceive all opponents by turning yourself into a deadly trap that looked completely vulnerable and easy to invade, only to surprise everyone with many trained soldiers. Doing this is very simple. Create a lot of ground, naval, and air units and hide them in a remote location that is unlikely to be seen by anyone. You should then invest in extensively training these units and doing research in order to create the strongest men in the server. And once an unfortunate individual decides to declare war, you can finally unleash them and take over the server. Before I continue on to the next tactic, I would like to announce that I created a new Discord server. If you join, you will get to share your suggestions, view sneak peeks, and speak to like-minded individuals. All you need to do is click on the link in the description or pinned comment. Now that most people that clicked on this video are gone, I think it's safe to show you the most insidious and nefarious tactic known to man and defy the laws of all ethical values set by conventional Rise of Nations players. You better listen closely, because what I'm about to show you will literally dismantle your opponent's country, pride, and self-esteem in a maximum of 1 minute. Let me explain. In Rise of Nations, you can declare war on other countries, but only if your troops are touching one of your own cities and not touching enemy cities. However, this is where we can deploy an easily exploitable and deadly mechanic. Normal and incompetent players will mistake touching cities as touching enemy territory. But you're not normal, are you? Then you should know that moving your troops close to important cities like factories, huge clumps of square cities, or capitals but not quite touching it will still qualify you to being able to declare war. And the best part about this, is that the majority of players won't notice this and just die on the spot. However, if you're dealing with an intelligent player that creates troops on their capital, then you will have to overpower them and bring units like artillery, aircraft, and navy to decimate your enemy's troops. One thing that I must say, however, is that if you don't have a huge pool of manpower and your enemy's capital is inland, then you should turn reinforcement off and specialize your troops based on the biome of your enemy's landmass. This will help to deal with deaths due to attrition. Combine this tactic with the alliance attacking strategy, and you will catch anyone completely off guard and unprepared for your malicious intents. You can now sit down, take a sip of tea, and watch your opponents suffer as you brutally degrade all of their hard work and progress in a matter of minutes. A few notable mentions: creating mines and resource-rich cities, scorching land before someone conquers it, flanking, and creating generals. If you enjoyed the video, the algorithm says you will cherish this one.